Thank you very much, everyone. So I first of all just want to congratulate you all for a couple of things. One is for taking the risk of going global. It's great to see Australian brands on the global stage, so well done, congratulations if you've already taken that leap, and congratulations for those that are here being educated on taking that journey, because the rewards can be fantastic. So I do want to start with a brief disclaimer, which I need to. Certainly some of the information that I'll be talking about today is financial in nature, and with over 1,000 registrations for today's event, I haven't taken into account your own personal circumstances or objectives. So what I'm going to talk about today is general advice in nature. So please do talk to someone for some specific advice if you need it in the area of the financial services. So WorldFirst, most of you may or may not have heard of us. We began in 2004. Jonathan Quinn and Nick Robinson left their corporate banking jobs to find a better alternative to FX that the banks were providing at the time. So they started up in their London basement and have grown dramatically over the years. In 2009, they opened their first international office here in Sydney. And then in 2019, became part of the Ant group, probably better known for Alipay, but we are the B2B specialist or B2B arm of Ant Group here in Australia. So since that time, we've got over 250,000 customers now, and have grown a little bit, 160 billion plus in transfers over that period, so still growing strongly. Our mission, pretty simple, and you've heard this a few times today about particularly going global, but making it easy to do business. Now, I'm going to emphasise the to do business part because that's what we specialise in. We are B2B. You might have consumer customers. We can help you in some aspects, but predominantly what we do is help SMEs with their B2B foreign currency needs. We do that by making the movement of money cross borders easy, fast and affordable. So like yourselves, this survey undertaken by Amazon says, well, one in Australia, this was, 1 in 3 Australian SMEs plan to expand internationally. So that number is growing, and I think what's most interesting about these statistics is those people that have done so really haven't looked back. Or most of them anyway. 96% of them who have already expanded have no regrets. So if you're thinking about it, that should give you some confidence that for those that have already taken that leap, they don't regret doing that. 80% of those wish they'd done that so sooner. So it does take time to take that step, and certainly you want to be educated. So coming to events like this and educating yourself and working with partners that can help you do that is an important step to going internationally and reducing some of the risk when doing so. And of those that have already expanded internationally, 80% of those are thinking about which country's next. So they've taken the step into one country and gone, well, okay, I'm now comfortable. I've dipped my toe in the water. Maybe they've used Tmall or something like that, and they've done that. They've taken that first step and gone, okay, now I want to go into another market because I can see the potential. There are many challenges though. Some of those have been covered today, and this cycle here on the right-hand side, I think most of what we've seen today probably can help you address some of these challenges. So if you think about connecting buyers and sellers, some fantastic platforms that you've seen today that can help you do that when you're going international. If you think about supply chain logistics, getting goods to and from where they need to go, there's certainly a lot of partners that are here today, and through the Alibaba.com ecosystem, you can leverage to help on the logistics side of things. We can't give you accounting or tax advice, but certainly there are plenty of financial advisors who do specialise in tax and international tax law, which is something that you should consider, and the implications of that when doing business internationally as well. What we can do at WorldFirst is help you with the challenges on the left-hand side of that cycle there. the global banking system can be very complex. When you're looking to expand internationally, how do you get paid? Do you need a bank account? What affects the currencies that you're exposed to? Making payments can be very convoluted and slow, and every payment network in different countries has different rules, different formatting, different kinds of banking account information. In Australia, account number and BSB, and you're away for a domestic payment. But when you're going international, it gets a little bit more complex. So knowing how to navigate through the international banking network and making cross-border payments is where you need someone who can help you with that as well. And then cash flow is king for businesses, we know that. So getting paid and making payments and making sure you're maximising your cash flow is critical. Certainly everyone wants to get paid today and wants to push their suppliers out and pay them later. So making sure that your cash conversion cycle is efficient is a very important ingredient for all of you when you're thinking about going global. A quick example of a customer of ours, New Zealand Honey Co., who took the step and started selling on marketplaces around the world. Very good success story out of New Zealand. So for him, it was a learning curve up front, right? Starting to sort of to find customers offshore through marketplaces and direct, and then having to be exposed to foreign currency conversion rates and FX rates can be very costly. Especially if you're losing 3 or 4% on every transaction in and out every time you do that. And if the value of each transaction is small, the more of your profit margin that's being eroded as well through that FX rate. I want to spend a bit of time on this slide about doing business like a local. So you're going into an overseas market, who are you competing with? You're competing with other local businesses, right? So you're going into their turf and you're starting to compete for their customers, right? If you're not pricing in that local currency, you're doing yourself a bit of a disservice. So in terms of the pricing tools, most businesses now are showing a local currency price, so US dollars or pounds or euro or CNY, whatever it might be in the other currency. If you're not, it's really hard to build trust and transparency with your customers. And I don't know about you, but if you've ever come across a site that shows a foreign currency price, one of the first things you do is you go to Google or you get the calculator out and go, how much is that in Australian dollars? You want to avoid your customers doing that. Right? You want to show them a price in their local currency that they understand. And so this little beacon on the right-hand side talks to a term known as a natural hedge. So if you are selling and receiving one currency, and say for example it's US dollars, it's coming into your account, and then you may need to also be paying suppliers in the same currency, in US dollars. So how are you managing that? Are those US dollars being converted into Australian dollars? Are you then converting those same Australian dollars back into US dollars to pay a supplier? You want to avoid the double conversion, that double dip that the banks are taking 3 or 4% on every time, in and again out. Right? So if you could hold the foreign currency and you can use some of that to pay a supplier, then you're not exposed not only to the transactional costs, but the foreign exchange rate fluctuations that happen in between as well. So with WorldFirst, you can collect and pay with what's known as a world account. So if you are expanding into another market and you're thinking about, well, do I need a bank account in that country? That can be hard to get. It can be complicated, can take time. You may need to actually present to a bank in person in the branch to open an account in the country. You might need to be registered in that country to be able to receive as well. It can be very convoluted and costly. So we offer an easy alternative to a bank account abroad. We call it a world account. So with a world account, you can open up to 10 local currency accounts at the click of a button from our platform, which means you can then offer your own equivalent of account number and BSB in that market to receive payment in that local currency. So you can take control of the conversion of those funds, save some money in doing so, but also utilise some of that natural hedge if you do have outgoing payments in the same currency. And then if you are importing, on the right-hand side of this, it's an easy way to pay your suppliers. So what you can do, if you know you've got some supplier payments coming, you can take advantage of the rate, lock in with some certainty the rate today, convert that into your foreign currency virtual account in US dollars, and then when the time comes to pay your suppliers, you pay your suppliers then. So you know up front what your foreign exchange costs are. There is another way. So I'll talk about it in a moment, but this is a chart of the Australian dollar since around the late last year. And we can see that the currencies, Australian dollar against the US dollar, can be quite volatile. It fell 22% from its highs around 76% to 62%. 22% drop. Now, if you're receiving foreign currency and you're receiving US dollars, that could be a 22% increase in your profit margin. But if you're a supplier, if you're importing, then that could be an increase of 22% in your cost. So you just think about what a 22% variation in your costs can do to your profit margin. Right? In many business models, that would wipe you out. If you're not careful about managing your foreign exchange properly, you could wipe out all your profit margin in going international. So you really need to pay attention to this, whether you're collecting foreign currency or whether you're paying suppliers in a foreign currency. And that's not your area of expertise, right? Most of you know your business quite well. You should be focusing on running your business and growing your business, not watching the exchange rate every day. In fact, this morning, some of you that may be paying attention to the rate might have woken up to see it dropped 1 to 2% overnight. So that's a 1 to 2% variation in your profit margin or in your sales revenue coming in the door. There is a way to hedge. Some of you may have heard the term hedge before. A hedge just means to protect. So there is a way to protect against these adverse currency movements. Okay, the most common way to do that is using what's called a forward contract. So a forward contract allows you to buy the currency today or pay for it today, lock in the rate for a future transfer. Now with WorldFirst, that can be up to 2 years. So you can lock in the exchange rate today for future transfers. You don't have to pay for the whole amount today. You can pay a small amount today as a deposit and you pay the other 95% or 90% when it's due, when you want to use those funds to pay a supplier or to convert back to Australian dollars. So a forward contract is an easy way to smooth out those variations in your profit margin by locking in the exchange rate for future payments. How much do you do that? Well, there's two sides of the spectrum here, and it depends on your business model. If you operate on consignment and you take an order up front and it's order by order, then it's quite easy to hedge 100% of that based on that one order. If you know you've got a customer that's going to pay you in 30, 60, 90 days' time for that order, then you can lock the rate in as soon as that order's placed, and then when the goods are due, then they pay you, then you can convert, you know how many Australian dollars you're going to receive in your bank account. If you're paying a supplier and your cost is varying, you can lock in the exchange rate to pay your supplier in the future. So again, you know your cost base up front. How much you hedge, as I said, can be anywhere between 0 of your future exposures, which is wholly unhedged. So you've got 0 FX rate certainty. You're going to take whatever rate it is on that future day, make your payment or receive your income. On the left-hand side, you can have 100% certainty on the FX rate by locking in the full amount of what you're going to need. I'm going to get a little bit technical here maybe, if I haven't already. So hopefully you're still with me, but there's a few different strategies that you can use to hedge. And certainly this layering strategy, as it's sometimes referred to, gives you is a model of which you can decide how much you should hedge and when. So it's just one way to do this, and there's plenty of other ways. But in this example here, your hedge ratio, so it could be somewhere between 80% and 100% in the short term, where you might have some more certainty around your cash flows. So in the first 3 months, you might, depending on how conservative you are or how risk averse you might be, you might decide to hedge the whole 100% over your next 3 months through a forward. Or you might decide, you know what, I'm not going to hedge all of it because there's a little bit of uncertainty, or I might want to participate in some upside if the rate's better over that period. So you might not want to lock in the whole lot. As through the timescale here, as you can see, as we go out 3 to 6 months, out to 12 months or more, you might hedge less because you might not have as much certainty around what you're going to need longer term. Right? It does depend on your business cycle, and does depend on your own business model and how you get paid and how you pay your suppliers and what your terms are there as to how it might work. Finally, another example from a customer of ours who is actually a car importer. Now, whether you're importing cars or coffee, same scenario. These principles hold the same, no matter what you're importing or exporting. Okay? In this example, this car importer, he gets a deposit from his customer. He knows that deal's locked in. He then takes out a forward contract to lock in the exchange rate for the yen he's going to need for the car that he's going to import from Japan. So when the car comes in, he pays in yen and he gets paid from his customer as well. So he takes away that FX risk of the Kiwi against the yen moving against him over that period. So hopefully today you've learnt something a little bit about how you can, if you're going into international markets, how you can get paid in the local currency and do business like a local, manage some of that FX risk, and hopefully save yourself a little bit of money in FX conversion rates as well, by not double converting or by saving yourself 3 or 4% instead of using the bank.